All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Adam from loopedHYPE. Just before we kick off with a round of intros, I just want to know how many in the room are familiar with Hyperliquid? Okay. So how many hold Hype? How many have deployed Hype on HyperEVM? Okay, I see a couple. All right. We know what we're working with here. All right. Yeah. A quick round of intros if you want to just introduce yourself and protocols you're with.
Hey everyone, I'm Redden, founding contributor for HypurrFi, which is a fancy way of saying I do everything.
Hello everyone, I'm Hatashi from Hyperbeat. It's a liquidity protocol on HyperEVM.
Cool, yeah. I mean, for the benefit of the room, do we want to do a quick 101 on Hyperliquid? Who wants to take that?
I can kick us off. So for those that don't know, Hyperliquid is started originally as a perpetuals DEX. It's got its own chain. It's often misclassified as an L3 off of Arbitrum. Arbitrum's just the bridge. But what it is really is it's this new emerging ecosystem that basically allows us to have access to CLOB, so like a collateral limit order book, right natively on chain. It's incredibly fast, incredibly performant. It is a proof of stake chain. It runs its own consensus called HyperBFT, which is a variant of hot stuff for those in the crowd, a lot more technical. It recently launched an EVM alongside of it, which is where I'm deployed, or HypurrFi is deployed, a building. And it has this really incredible performance associated with it and the promise of housing all of finance. And so I think ultimately it is the place to be building these days.
Cool. Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
No, I would just say Hyperliquid is the future and it's the biggest opportunity since Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I second that. Let's move on to why did you choose to build on Hyperliquid? You're both building protocols on EVM, HyperEVM. So maybe give a bit of context around that.
Yeah. I think for us, originally we actually set out to solve a lot of the similar challenges on our own network that we were building that we ended up finding were being solved by the Hyperliquid ecosystem. That's what really drew us in. We were all about this notion of decentralized custody, yield aggregation, and making a network that was really trying to condense DeFi into a unified space. And then after learning more and more about the vision of Hyperliquid, it just became clear, I would be wasting my time trying to compete with Jeff and team. I'm better off, if you can't beat them, join them. And I've been a trader myself. I've been trading on Hyperliquid since pretty much the beginning, as soon as public was allowed in. And I'm blown away. I've never had such a good experience. Literally from the first transaction I made, it instantly became clear, I was wasting my time and energy trading on any other venue.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of other ecosystems are like one big party. And if you're not best friends with, the head of ecosystem or the head of BD, you just can't get a shake. Hyperliquid is quite different in that it's very meritocratic. It is really whoever deploys the best product, scales the fastest, gets the reward that you deserve. And then on top of that, you're building in an ecosystem where the team championing it is, obviously very professional. They're bringing a lot of unique concepts to crypto, such as the enshrined order book in the chain, effectively. A dual consensus mechanism. They've got HyperBFT, which is an iteration on top of familiar, execution environments that we've seen around. And yeah, it's an exciting place to be honest. The users are not your typical farmers. The dApps are not your typical deploy on 10 chains and then just fork the code and, launch to capture some incentives. So those are some of the reasons why I feel like Hyperliquid is really different.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, moving that forward. So you've got the Hyperliquid L1 and then the HyperEVM. So what is the HyperEVM and how is it different to other EVMs? You've got a lending market, you've got DEXs, liquid staking protocols. How is the HyperEVM different from other EVMs, would you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think the easiest one off the get-go is your typical EVM. All of your tooling out of the gate is, plug and play and compatible. And a lot of that does line up with where the HyperEVM is today. But we do have a very unique block structure in the HyperEVM. We have what's called a dual block architecture. And that means that on the EVM side of things, there's fast blocks and there's slow blocks. And this is a really mental shift for a lot of developers that they have to understand when they come in. You actually have to intentionally filter yourself into what lane you want to actually be transacting in. But this has, significant benefits to the performance side of things. But overall, the HyperEVM is, for all intents and purposes, it's I think it's the Cancun upgrade of Ethereum right now. So it has all the bells and whistles, precompiles that you'd expect from an EVM, but it also has its own unique set of things that allow you to interact with the core exchange itself. So it really gives you a set of tools that exist nowhere else. You could imagine, Binance on chain. That is Hyperliquid.
Yeah, no, nothing to add. Andrew put it quite aptly.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a staking summit where all brought together as many validators here. Staking went live on Hyperliquid at the end of last year. Hatashi, you part of a validator team. So, yeah, the set is now permissionless. 21 validators. And yeah, if you just give a bit of context around why you decided to spin up a validator and just some general information around the Hyperbeat.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So the journey of Hyperbeat has always been a little bit, I would say, bootstrapped. So we are self-raised, and in the beginning it was just two friends running validators because we saw the opportunity on Hyperliquid. So in November of 2024, we actually formalized it into Hyperbeat to become an official validator. We were procuring bare metal machines, running a lot of, extra stuff. I'm sure many of you know what it takes to run a validator, and hence we formalized it. But functionally, it works very similar to other chains. You have your node, you peer, and you just execute transactions. It's not really that different, and it's quite easy to onboard. But something which is unique is that you don't necessarily, become best friends with the ecosystem lead, get a bunch of stake, and then you can just live off that forever. It's actually not that profitable to run a validator. You're sort of almost at break even, and it's more about contributing to the ecosystem to enhance its security. And having actually the community stake to you comes from giving value to the ecosystem. So Hyperliquid team don't pick favorites, they don't give grants, and yeah, it's a bootstrap culture. So maybe for those of you who are more commercially minded in the crowd, it might not make sense at this stage, but if you really believe in the vision and you're willing to, have some delayed gratification, it's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I also love about Hyperliquid, and it seems like everyone is kind of lifting each other up in the ecosystem. We speak to all of the mainnet validators, and it very much seems that they do, as Hatashi said, do this as like a duty of service. It's not just about the profit, which is interesting. The reward rates are around less than 2% or something.
Yeah, 2.12%. I think also another thing is that the team don't publish in advance any changes to the consensus mechanism or how validators are being run. So it is a bit on the edge. You have to be aware 24/7 of any updates, kind of figure out what's going on. There is continuous actual jailing as a result. So you have to be very quick to unjail, figure out what's happening. And hence performance is a huge metric. There will be slashing eventually, I believe. It's not implemented yet on mainnet, but if you want to play around, testnet is open and you can figure out the ecosystem. Particularly if you're technically minded and want a challenge, I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see big staking providers like Figment and Chorus One not made it to the mainnet set yet and have no kind of idea if they will or when and stuff. So yeah, it seems like it's a really interesting kind of space. So I mean, moving on, going back into the HyperEVM, we're all building protocols on the HyperEVM. Obviously the reward rate on for vanilla staking as 2.1%. What opportunities does the HyperEVM bring for building products? And people are have opportunities to get higher yields on the HyperEVM. Maybe talk about your respective protocols and how you enable that.
Yeah, certainly. So HypurrFi is a money market, ultimately at its core. So we focus aggressively on lending. We have a pooled market, an isolated market, and we also have our own native stablecoin, all of which are really associated into the broader vision of enabling yield redistribution at scale. like HyperEVM is a great place for this though, because it's really where you're going to find, capital and attention starts to black hole. It's certainly captivated the minds of most developers that I deal with and interact with on a regular basis. My inbound for, help and support and try to figuring out like how to get people in and facilitate there. But in terms of like yield and opportunities, it's really that this exchange ecosystem that you're so like highly connected to, literally at the hip, is starting to explore and expand its offering of assets. And so, we have native Bitcoin, native Ethereum already on chain. We're going to have things like Solana coming, potentially XRP. You're looking at the opportunity in the future is going to have tokenized stocks, equities, real world assets. So this suddenly becomes like beyond just your typical EVM chain, and it starts to becoming like maybe the new house of traditional finance. I don't think any other chain to date, to your earlier point about this being like the best thing that's ever happened since Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think it's actually a larger 0 to 1 than Ethereum ever could have hoped for. That's a big statement, but if you look at it, like the mind share is being swallowed by Hyperliquid. I've been in the space since the very beginning of crypto, and nothing has captivated the attention of my like peers like Hyperliquid has.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, so we are a liquidity protocol on HyperEVM. So we provide vault solutions, a one-stop shop for anyone to get yield on any asset. So we have vaults which allocate in across DEX and money markets like HypurrFi, as well as running strategies across hypercores such as basis trades. But the reason why we really started is because validators, or the validator game, is a race to zero. In many ways, it's very similar to the economic market for supermarkets. You're competing on cost, getting the best cost, and effectively reducing commission as much as possible to get as much stake. So we decided to go in a different direction and offer solutions to users to generate additional revenues, which could then be repatriated to our validator. So we don't necessarily have to, charge 50 bips on commission. We can actually keep that and ensure the validator is more interesting for users. That was at least the start. And as we've gotten into HyperEVM, as Andrew mentioned, there's really big developers and really big teams coming on board. So for instance, we have just announced a partnership with Morpho and Athena to bring them to HyperEVM, including SUSDE, assets such as UBTC USOL from Unit Protocol, which is the native bridging protocol for these assets onto HyperEVM. And yeah, that's now, I would say, our main business, a one-stop shop for yield for both protocols and users.
Cool. Yeah. And just a few words on loopedHYPE. So, I mean, loopedHYPE was initiated by Staker Rewards. The protocol is going to become permissionless eventually. But yeah, I mean, our USP really is that we are the first liquid looping token. So we're a structured product built using staking protocols. And yeah, we have the loop. Everyone's quite familiar with looping strategies. It's a well-known DeFi strategy, but we automate that for users. And we have a series of controls and measures that allow the automation to run smoothly. We're not trying to do any degen stuff here. We can just generate up to 10% APY. We have 50 million in working capital already in the lending markets. And yeah, we're just waiting for the lending markets to scale up so we can, lever up our looping strategy. So yeah, but anyway, let's moving on. So yeah, I mean, let's go more into like the lore of Hyperliquid. I feel like, to me, like Hyperliquid just feels like a bunch of misfits that stuck around early, really believed in the ecosystem, and we're still here. I mean, talk a bit about that, because you probably both got the airdrop, right? I mean, the ecosystem's just like so tight, and it seems like it's just it's a great place to be. So yeah, speak about the lore of Hyperliquid.
You want to start? I'll take us. Okay. So first off, there's this gentleman named Chameleon Jeff. He is a crypto punk on the internet. I'm sure he's a human out there somewheres. He was a market maker. This is how it all started. He participated across the board, developed a sharp 3.0 strategy, and then FTX collapsed. And this basically radicalized him. And he was like, this is stupid. There is no way that level of risk should have been allowed. And as someone who was making a ton of money as a market maker across all these venues, And you don't just stop making money. That's like, the big thing that happens when you're successful, you want to keep going. But they took it a different step. They they gave away the Sharp 3.0 strategy to the community. They have this native thing inside the chain that allows for basically a vault that you can participate in the strategy. The point here is that like you have this incredibly talented and capitalized individual who decided to go out and rewrite how we think about a centralized exchange ecosystem. That's what it all started as. And then it quickly became a snowball effect. And, the lore is really kind of interesting around the fact that, like, it's all meritocracy based across the board. Almost nobody has interactions with the team. Like, almost nobody. Jeff loves us, but doesn't talk to us. That actually is, like, the most powerful part of this ecosystem, I think. And it's, I think, a big part of the reason why I'm here. I've been building in the space for about a decade. And when you go into a space, and you brought this up a ton of times regarding like having best friends, it sucks when you feel like you have the best product, but you don't have the best network. And the best product should win. It shouldn't just be these backroom deals that you see like, buddy, slap, here you go, bunch of tokens, do what you want, incentivize your users. We have none of that. Users were paid as a part of the airdrop. They gave away 33% of the tokens. They have no VCs. They bootstrapped the entire thing. The team took a small percentage, and otherwise it's, been the most successful airdrop to date. Like, it created zealots. It galvanized people instantly overnight. It completely like modified the trajectory of companies, mine included. And that's like a testament to them. Like, literally, like, I've never been ignored so much in my entire life and just like loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I think you basically covered most of it. The only other thing is that most other teams, when they TGE, they use the token as another means to raise. So first of all, Hyperliquid never raised. And number two, they're generating between 2 to 3 million of fees a day, and they're using that to buy back the token totally. So I think not only is the community radicalized, because I guess there's this general view that everyone became rich for using Hyperliquid, which is, by the way, not the case. And you also didn't need a lot of money to get a large airdrop. The formula is not public, and the team is continuously using all of the fees to support the broader ecosystem without doing any like internal grants or, side deals, just straight to the token. So even you as a community member or a trader benefit from the fees that Hyperliquid makes.
Cool. Yeah. So I'd like to ask about a new feature that's coming in, Preompiles. So I think read Preompiles are live now. Maybe just give a quick flavor of what Preompiles enables for Hyperliquid and the HyperVM, and just maybe give a quick idea of what kind of products you're most excited about, or just give one product that you're most excited about that'll be enabled by Preompiles.
Yeah, sure. So the Preompiles are at a high level a way for smart contracts to interact with the liquidity that exists in this enshrined order book. So it's like totally on-chain. So you can have a smart contract, for instance, that is that has a set of rules. Like if, BTC drops at this price, then do X, Y, Z on Hyperliquid, the exchange. Effectively, that's what it is in terms of the write Preompiles. For the read Preompiles, what it means is that you can read prices from the order book directly. So now you can have truly decentralized oracles. You said one project, right?
No, just
yeah. So I think like one great project is Kinetic. I'm not an investor. I'm not associated, and also not paid to say this. But one project, Kinetic, is building liquid staking, which is totally on chain. So they have a fair mechanism for allocating 2 validators based on a scoring metric, which is called StakeHub, and they have various metrics. They read from on chain, score validators. And then on the other side, they have a smart contract which accepts Hype and allocates it to these validators without any human interaction involved. So it's actually totally on-chain, totally permissionless, and I would say very true to the ethos of wider crypto. They're not live yet. It's probably one of the most hyped projects on HyperEVM, and they're at the moment blocked by the right Preompiles coming to mainnet.
Yeah, Andrew, quickly, do you want to just add to that?
Yeah, the Preompiles, like, for me, it goes beyond just any one product or service. I think it goes towards like creating the environment for success. And what I mean by that is if you look at like as a trader, because that's our atypical user that we have on the ecosystem, it's all traders. traders deal with this concept of like opportunity costs on their capital all day, every day. This ecosystem is so performant that you can go from the EVM into the core market inside 2.5 seconds and have an order already enabled, maybe like a long position or a spot order. Compare that to any other ecosystem, you don't have that opportunity. Okay, if you want to go from Kraken to Ink, it's like 4 minutes, right? You can't have your capital sitting on either side of the divide and expect that you're going to be able to transact in real time against anything that's happening in the market. In Hyperliquid, probably actually can. You could have your capital sitting on either side of this ecosystem and you can exit and enter at will. It's instantly confirmed. And the precompiles allow like this massive degree of composability that never existed before. So it's like you have this whole liquidity side of the equation, and then you have like smart contracts. And now suddenly the bridge between the two of those is so thin and so fast to go back and forth. Like we don't even know the true impact of what applications are going to look like. Everything we have today to build that's like from the last 10 years doesn't take into account this structure. And so I think we're just like, it's hard to say what's going to be the best usage of these tools because I don't think we've even scratched the surface on what we really can do in this new ecosystem.
Yeah, agree. Just one final question before we wrap it up. What is the bull case for Hyperliquid? Like, is Hyperliquid gonna when are they gonna flip Binance? Like, is this gonna happen? Do you guys believe that will happen?
Yeah, so I think one of the major things with Binance and Bybit is a lot of their trading is denominated in BTC, predominantly BTC and ETH. At the moment, Hyperliquid only denominates in USD, in the form of USDC, and of course, more stables will be onboarded. So I think that will bring on board traders that just trade in Bitcoin, that just denominate in Bitcoin. At the moment, last I checked, it was around 20% of Binance volume comes from BTC denominated trading. So when they enable that, I can expect overall DEX volumes to increase. Of course, there are some competitors, but there is no next Hyperliquid in my opinion. I think everyone is raising off of this narrative, but no one can do it like them. I think they don't have the ability to execute. But generally, as they proliferate the market overall, I think Hyperliquid benefits from a rising tide, lifts all boats. I also think the EVM is pretty major because now you can deposit native BTC, trade, and take out that BTC directly to the Bitcoin network. So you don't have sexes involved at all. And it's actually a step change for our main users, which are traders, but also everyday users who are, just yield farming or maybe borrowing some money on chain to buy a car or something like that. So with some on-ramps and off-ramps which are coming, I think it will be a totally decentralized system that sexes are just not needed for, where you don't pay those extra fees, you don't have the centralization risk, and you actually have a much better product. Overall, I think another thing is, obviously the community is very galvanized, but it's a little bit insular. So as we're starting to do things like this and introduce other people to Hyperliquid, I think we start to see a bit of a change with the types of users that are onboarded. So not only traders, but perhaps other builders and, major validator companies, cottage industries, people that are just running a validator at home, and overall the ecosystem is set to grow, I think, monumentally.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I will add there, though, that like my biggest bull case for Hyperliquid in general right now is like I believe in a world where we have like deep liquidity, structured products, all of finance, all in one place. And that was the DeFi vision for a long time. And I honestly believed Ethereum was going to be that winner of like, DeFi's heart. And it's where it started. But if you think about it in general, like compare Ethereum versus Hyperliquid as a prime example, Ethereum wants to be the place for everything. That's great. Hyperliquid wants to be the place that finance like takes over and runs everything. And I think that's the largest bull case because of everything we've created in the last 10 plus years of crypto, money and financial assets and financial tooling is the one thing we do very, very, very well. And everyone knows this, but no one's wanted to double down on it at all. And that's always been a missed opportunity. Like we've never had a chain before that generates so much money and distributes it entirely to the user base. Like it's insane. Like $3 million a day on average, 2.4, 2.5 buys Hype. So that's it. Hype is an equity token. If like for all intents and purposes. And so that is like the most bullish thing that exists anywhere. You know, you're generating like, I think we're like third in terms of overall revenue, just behind stable coins. And so like before long, we're going to be top 10, top 5, top 2 by Bitcoin. That's it. That's the bull case. Binance on chain, basically.
Cool. Yeah. Let's wrap it up on. That's a nice final note. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. That's us.
Thank you.